Hello and good morning. Welcome to my morning forecast. Today is Wednesday, the 16th of March. Time is currently 7:28 a.m. in the morning. And as you can see, this is the Aussie US dollar. And I was in a position here, so I will explain this. It did come out as a 1% loss, but I will explain this position. You can see that there was a continuation here to go to the downside that people were looking at, of course, at this inside bar. But again, it wasn't for me because for me, I said we start to see the shift in momentum, so I wasn't interested. Now, again, one of the things I noticed that, yes, we broke this high, and again, for me, I started to see momentum. We could start to see that, okay? So again, that was something very nice to see. And one of the things I really liked about this setup, even though it was a little bit more valid because of coming from this range, I liked how we actually came out of this, okay? You can see that in this, we saw the shift of momentum, you pulled back, there was a small liquidity area here, and you can see how market reacted. We could see we pushed up, pulled back, had a pullback with two candles and started to push up again. Again, I'm seeing momentum in the market, okay? So for me, again, I was happy to put my order. Again, like you can see, it was just taken straight out. But again, I'm completely happy with that. Like I say, it was more of a valid trade. But again, for me, considering the circumstance, considering we had a longer term descending, a smaller descending, seeing clear weakness, and then we start to break the high with momentum, again, I was completely happy to take that. So again, that's completely fine with me. Now, what am I looking at next? Well, as you can see, guys, for me, my bias in this market is still down. In terms of breaking highs and lows, I'll quickly cover that. You can see we came down, we broke this low, retraced, broke this high, okay? Saw some momentum over here, formed a wick, saw aggressive retrace, okay? Then again, we've broken this low, retraced, broken the high, retraced. Getting lots of evidence that we're going to be range bound. Then we've broken this low, retraced, broken this high, retraced, okay? Still more evidence that we're going to be range bound. No momentum in either direction. Then we've broken this high, again, come to the top here. Now again, one of the things I am noticing, okay, well, even though this price action is telling us that we're going to be range bound, okay, so for me, again, I'm sitting on my hands. I do have a market bias that the market is going to go down. Now, why is that? Well, okay, as you can see, we've pushed out with momentum, okay? We've come up, come down with momentum. Again, we had a liquidity area here that was taken out. You can see that market reacted pretty strongly, okay? Now again, it didn't continue. You can see we came up, okay? Then we came out in, again, a little bit of momentum, okay? We took out liquidity, started to push down again, okay? Then again, even down here, you can see, if we said, okay, the market bias is long, well, you could see that even if we took out liquidity down here, we would get a push. Did we get that push? No, not really. Same again down here, okay? We've got liquidity area down here. You can see that we've pushed up, come back, pulled up, come back and broken structure, taken liquidity out, pulled up. Did we see that reaction here? Not really. We actually came up, retraced and come up, okay? So again, for me, when something like this happens, I do tend to see this kind of area of liquidity at the top here being taken out. As you can see, it's just been taken out here. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a kind of pit stop for price. We can see with price being coming down, this is just kind of an area of where we're just collecting liquidity. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we actually just get that move down from this area here, okay? So we're going to see how that happens, okay? Now again, for me, if we actually come up in this, like we said, we've broken this high here with a little bit of momentum, okay? If we come up in an ascending manner, I will be sitting my hands and waiting what happens next. If we impulse down, more than happy to look for a nice continuation flag, very nice, very high probability, or a reversal trade, okay? Break the low, pull at this level, more than happy to look for a trade like this, okay? Very nice and very high probability, okay? Now again, we might not get that, okay? You can clearly see, even though we are a little bit range bound, if we don't go according to market bias, we break the high, pull back to this level, I will be looking to get involved in the continuation of the trend to the upside, okay? Well, why is that? Well, even though we have come from a little bit of range bound behavior, we are seeing this kind of corrective trend, okay? But again, I want to see more momentum. I want to see price action away from this. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually push up, push up, retrace, push up again, pull back and get involved in a setup like this, okay? This again, very high probability. But like I say, these kind of last two scenarios are unlikely, okay? Because of how we're actually even breaking these major highs. Look, we can see major high breaking, retracing, okay? So for me, again, I'm anticipating a lot more of corrective behavior before we start to see that move down, okay? But again, like I said, it doesn't have to do that. If we actually start to impulse up, show that commitment, more than happy to look for a nice continuation flag to the upside. Very nice, very, very high probability. So again, I'm sitting on my hands being patient with this pair. Again, prior price action is telling me, hey, we're breaking lows, retracing, breaking highs, retracing, being a little bit range bound. Again, for me, this is a little bit more ascending, okay, in the sense that it is taking out higher levels of liquidity and could potentially see that move down, which is why I've got my arrow here. But again, let's continue and see what happened next. The next pair is Aussie Japanese yen. Now again, similar to the Aussie US dollar, again, for me the market bias is still down. Yes, we're seeing that element of momentum here, okay? But again, let's have a look and see what is happening. You can see we've come down with momentum, okay? We have broken this low, retraced, broken the high, retraced. How did we take out this area of liquidity here? We saw we took it out with momentum, okay? Now again, same to the downside. We broke this low, retraced, we took out area of liquidity with this candle here and started to see that momentum down, okay? And then what happened after that? Well, again, you can clearly see, now if someone's asking me saying, okay, well, you've got liquidity down here, right? And you've got the momentum up here, isn't that a scenario? Well, for me, again, it's not really, and it's because of how price reacted. And the reason being, we've got a long wick. Normally you start to see a continuous push up, but we didn't. We actually started to stagnate here. You can see market structure was a little bit stagnant, and then we pushed up, okay? And then again, how did we react after? Well, look what happened. We've got higher levels of liquidity here, okay? We took it out with this long wick, started to see momentum, but again, slowed down, okay? You can see that even in this scenario, if we were thinking the market bias was up, then again, we would have taken out this lower level of liquidity and pushed up with momentum. Did we do that? No. You can see we started to range, okay? So again, for me, like I say, the market bias is still down. We are seeing that we've come into these higher levels of liquidity, okay? We're not having enough liquidity taken out in this price action here. Even with this candle, we've got liquidity taken out here, no momentum. Liquidity taken out here, no momentum. So I wouldn't be surprised if we've taken out these higher levels of liquidity and we start to see that push down, okay? Now again, what am I looking for? Well, again, we've just broken this high and not seen that momentum. So again, if we come up in an ascending manner, okay, break the low, put back to this level, more than happy to look for that nice reversal setup, okay? Or if we actually break this high correctively, okay, and we impulse down, more than happy to look for a nice continuation flag. Very nice, very, very high probability, okay? Now again, like I say, market biases can change for me, okay? Even if we start to see these kind of liquidity stops being taken out, but again, we start to trend correctively like this pair does to the upside, then again, that's completely fine. But again, I want to see how that happens. If we actually have a scenario like this, I'll be more than happy to get involved in that, okay? In that scenario, we are trending correctively when it comes to highs and lows, okay? You can see in terms of the high here and low here we broke the high, retraced, and then broke the high again. Okay, looks like we're going to retrace. Okay, so again, we are on the uptrend in a sense. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if the overall picture does take the market south, okay? So again, that's what I'm looking at on this pair. Again, you can see that we have essentially broken this high, formed the wick, seen a little bit of momentum lacking, and just retrace. So again, I want to see what happens next, okay? The next pair is the Euro US dollar. And as you can see, guys, I'm sure you can see that from my previous forecast, the market bias was still down. I did have the rectangles here, I've just taken them off. You can see that we've taken out liquidity here, pushed down. Taken out liquidity here, pushed down. And why do we know that? Look, we had a slowdown here, okay? Like I said, it's not uncommon to see this move down, descending, and then move down again, okay? Now again, what happened here? What is important that happened after the impulse? You can see we broke this low, okay? Retrace. Didn't have enough liquidity go down. We can see we started to come up with momentum, took out liquidity, and how do we know this? Well, again, we started to react with momentum. Didn't have enough liquidity, came up, took liquidity out up here, again, started to see that push down, but again, wasn't enough. Now again, what did we see up here? We started to push up still into these higher areas of liquidity, even though the market bias from the previous price action is down. How did we react? Again, we started to tremble down and then we started to see a little bit of momentum. But again, what happened after the momentum? You can see we formed a large wick and we started to pull back a little bit aggressively, okay? Now again, for me, I know that there is a continuation here, okay? We can see that there is a continuation bullet here to go to the south side, okay, up there. But again, for me, this is not really high probability. And the reason being, okay, even though the market bias for me is still down, so again, everything is looking like, yes, we've just had a little pit stop with price action here to actually fuel liquidity to take price down here. Again, this kind of continuation bullet isn't high probability because we've seen this aggressive retrace. And again, for me, I want to see a range, okay? We didn't get a range. Remember that the bullet is the top and bottom of a range. If we see this aggressive retrace, I want to see a lot more of a range, okay? Before I actually even consider coming into this kind of area at this inside bar and taking price to go south. Okay, so again, for me, this is something that I'm sitting out. Some people might be in this, but again, for me, this trade here at this level here, again, is not for me. It does not fit my plan. You can see we've pushed down and come back aggressively. And again, what do we know when we see that? We tend to see this and a push up. So again, waiting for more price action. Okay, now if we do this and see that really strong commitment, okay, more than happy to look for a nice continuation flag. Remember, even though price action is saying market bias for me is to the south side, again, news can come out, we can completely shift, but again, we have to see clear evidence of that. So again, for me, I'm still sitting on my hands, being patient and waiting to see what happens next on the Euro US dollar. Next pair is Euro Japanese yen. Now again, this was a little bit unclear, so you can see I've actually drawn down and a question mark. So for me, this was actually telling me that, hey, is the bias still to the downside? Okay, and the reason being is because recent price action has been a lot more range bound. You can see, yes, we start to struggle to come up. You can see the major highs breaking, retracing, breaking, retracing, breaking, retracing, breaking, retracing, breaking, retracing, ascending manner. We start to see that smaller ascending. Again, we saw momentum up, and now again we've just started to range within here. You can see that, right? You can see that we've just started to range in this price action. Okay, now again for me, like I say, it's a question mark in terms of market bias because of how we have reacted in here. You can see we've had some volatile candles here, and again we've just started to range within here. Okay, now even when it comes to actually looking at how we're taking out highs and lows, we would have actually had a liquidity area down here. Okay, how did we react? We didn't react with momentum. Okay, so most recent price action is telling me momentum or the market bias is still to the downside. Okay, so again, even for me, I personally wouldn't be looking at getting involved in some sort of retest here. Okay, I know that some people may have taken this kind of continuation bullet possibly from this area, or even may look to get involved in this area and get in like that after seeing these rejections. But again, for me, not high probability, and the reason being is, like I said, is that price action is very, very range bound here, and on top of that, all I'm seeing is that we're just breaking high, retracing, breaking high here, retracing. Okay, seeing liquidity being taken out. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually come up a little bit higher into these high levels of liquidity, and then from there we start to see that push down. If we see that push down, I will be looking to get involved in a nice continuation flag. Very high probability. If we break the low, pull back to this level, more than happy to get involved in a nice reversal setup. Okay, again, wouldn't be surprised. Now again, it's not uncommon, like I say, to see that kind of little bit of an ascending. Okay, you can see we've ascended here in a sense, right, even though we've got a range bound price action here, and from there impulse up. If we impulse up and see that commitment to the upside, more than happy to look for a nice continuation flag. Okay, but again, for now, I'm sitting and waiting in my hands, being patient, seeing what happens next. Market is very range bound. I want to see how we actually exit the highs over here and the lows over here. Okay, so again, sitting in my hands, being patient and waiting for more price action. Next pair is the pound. As you can see, guys, right, so I'm sure you guys saw that from my previous recaps, even from this price action here, the market bias is down, and it still has been down for me. And you can see we are pushing down, and you can see, well, how am I coming to these conclusions? Well, you can see, like I said, liquidity area here, started to take it and push down. Okay, now again, even here, took a little bit of liquidity up here above this inside bar here, pushed down. Okay, then what happened after? We came up, took out liquidity hit here, pushed down, faked out in a sense because we came up, took more liquidity out here, and again started to push down. Okay, again, what happened after? We broke this low, retraced, so a little bit of momentum here. Again, could possibly telling me, hey, we might have a market bias shift because we've taken the liquidity and starting to see momentum to the upside. But again, for me, what's happened after? You can see, guys, even from a sense here, we've actually taken liquidity out lower here. Okay, from, you can see we've pushed up, pulled back with this candle, pushed up, and then pulled back again with this candle, taken out liquidity. But again, I didn't see that momentum up. Yes, this is a push up, but again, price action here is telling me, hey, we've pushed up and then retraced. Okay, so again, giving me the evidence that the market bias is still not to the upside and is still to the downside. Okay, so again, for me, what's happened? You can see we've taken out even higher levels of liquidity up here with this wick, and we started to push down again. Now again, what happened after? We pushed down with a little bit of momentum, pulled back, pushed down, retraced here, again telling you there's not enough liquidity taken. So again, like I say, you can see we've broken this high, retraced, broken this high, retraced. Could have collected enough liquidity to actually start fueling the move to the downside. But again, like I say, wouldn't be surprised if we actually come up again here and then start to see a move down, or we actually have taken enough and are seeing that push down. Okay, so I'm expecting a move down, but again, doesn't have to happen. Okay, we can see market news or something can cause markets to shift. If we see that momentum up, more than happy to look for a nice continuation flag to the upside. See that commitment, happy to get involved in the trend. Same to the downside, more than happy to look for a nice continuation flag on the downside. Okay, now remember guys, with this pair I trade flags and longer flags, but also continuation. So if I see that momentum, more than happy to get involved in a nice continuation like this. Same to the downside, more than happy to get involved in a nice continuation like this. Okay, so again, waiting on my hands on the pound, you can see in essence, yes, I do have a market bias of going down. I can see liquidity stops in this sense. Okay, but again, one of the things is that I want to see commitment. You can see even from just a perspective of this, pretty much sideways, right? So again, waiting for more significant price action for me to actually get involved in this pair. Okay, now again, like I say, we can actually have range bound behavior and start to see momentum down and then get involved in a continuation like this one, right? Okay, again, this one didn't fit my plan because of these 2 wicks. Again, I'm still doing more work on this. Again, now something like that wouldn't be uncommon. We start to see range bound behavior push down exactly like we did above, and like I said, get involved in a nice continuation like that. Very high probability. Okay, so again, market bias for me is still down. Let's see what happens despite this range bound behavior, and then I'll go on from there. Next pair is the New Zealand Japanese yen. Like I was seeing again, okay, so let's have a read of price action. We have momentum down, took liquidity out, pushed down, more liquidity out here, pushed down. Again, we could have had potential liquidity out here, but again, wasn't for me. We pushed up, okay, didn't have enough liquidity to come back down. So again, for me, I wouldn't be surprised, like we're seeing here, to take out these higher levels of liquidity, okay, and then we see that push down, okay. Now, if we do that, like I say, I will be looking at a reversal trade. If we get that ascending, break the low pull at this level, we'll be looking at that kind of setup, okay. Again, we may not get that. We might start to push down, retrace, push down again. Happy to get involved in a nice continuation or combo to that kind of level, okay. So again, market bias is down still for me here. Again, the reason being that it's supporting that evidence is that you can see we've kind of got, in a sense, a flag here. You can see we've got pullback flag here. Again, what is happening after we've hit this lower level of liquidity, right? Have we seen momentum? Is this showing me momentum after we've taken liquidity? No. I'm seeing a push up, a retrace, push up. So again, we can just flimsily move along up here and then see that commitment down. Take out the liquidity and see that commitment. Okay, so again, waiting on my hands on New Zealand Japanese yen. So as you can see, guys, for me, mostly the market biases are down. Again, market biases for me, it doesn't have to happen that way. But again, I want to be a little bit more patient because we're seeing a little bit more kind of corrective behavior and range bound behavior. So again, I want to see a lot better price action before I look to get involved in these pairs today. That's what I'm looking at in the market ahead. I hope you all have a fantastic day.